At one time, my family and I worked with a farmer in Michigan where we grew and harvested tomatoes for the Campbell Soup Company. Hi, I'm Annette and welcome to Kitchen Garden Farmhouse. Today is February the 27th and this is a month where it's getting warmer in a lot of states up and during the day. And if you have not started your tomato seeds already indoors, this is a good time to get those tomato seeds planted and get them started indoors, because we can start our tomato seedlings anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks before our last frost date. We all are very fortunate to have a lot of tomato seeds to choose from. There is so many different varieties, from hybrids to heirlooms. So what type of tomato seeds are you sowing this year? Leave me a comment below. If you're not sure what tomato seeds to sow and you really would like to do that this year, let's think about some different reasons why to sow different tomato seeds. One, if you live in a small space or maybe a large space, but you just want to grow some tomatoes in a container or a small area, then consider the determinate type, which is your bush type tomatoes, and you won't have to prune them and you can grow those in a larger container. If you would like to have tomatoes more throughout the season, then going for the indeterminate types would be the way to go. They do vine and they will have to have support. If you would like to have a good slicer tomato, then choosing a beefsteak or an ox heart category would be a good choice. They are indeterminate and they will vine, so they will have to have support. However, if you're looking to grow the biggest tomato that you can grow, then consider the beefsteak category. If you love the bite-sized tomatoes for snacks or for salads, then choosing the cherry tomatoes or the grape tomatoes is a good choice. If you want to make some really good salsa, then think about the paste tomatoes or the ox heart varieties. But if you really love cannon, then a paste tomato variety is a good choice as well. If you're looking for tomatoes that has a good history behind them and they have a really rich flavor and they're very colorful, then you will want to go with your heirloom tomatoes. If you're looking to save your tomato seeds and you want to regrow them next year and want them to stay true to type, then you would need to go with open pollinated seeds. If you're looking for tomato seeds that are more resistant to diseases, then go for your hybrids. Now I'm going to share with you some tomato seeds that I'm going to be sowing. On the back of this seed packet, we are all in 4 different categories. And so as you can see, for those that wants to start their seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks, it is time for all of us to do that. Abe Lincoln. This is an heirloom type. It has an old-fashioned tomato flavor. It is an indeterminate, so it will grow vines. Seed to harvest is somewhere between 70 to 80 days. Black trifila tomato. Seed to harvest is about 85 days. This tomato is pear-shaped. You can eat it fresh or make sauces out of it. It has a lot of sweetness to it. It is an heirloom variety. It's indeterminate, so you will have to have support because they will grow vines. Sun sugar tomato, it is an hybrid. It is a golden cherry tomato. It is indeterminate, so it will need support. And seed to harvest is around 60 to 65 days. This is the Super Sweet 100 tomato. It is an hybrid. These tomatoes has a long fruit that bears on these stems, and they can produce up to 100 or more super sweet tomatoes. These are the cherry types. It will need to be caged or some kind of staking for support. Another cherry tomato. This is your ground cherry tomato. It's also called husk tomatoes, because they have this papery husk on the outside. They are so cute. These ground tomatoes are excellent on their own, but you can also use them in baked goods. My last tomato, Cherokee Purple. These Cherokee Purple tomatoes, they are heirlooms. Seed to harvest is about 80 days. This is a very old-fashioned variety from Tennessee. The flavor of this tomato has been described as yummy, tasty, wonderful, delicious, and unbelievable. So this tomato will need support because it does grow vigorous vines. Tomatoes is one of the most popular fruit/vegetable that is grown in the backyard garden from people all over the world. This vegetable or fruit can be grown not only in the ground but also in containers They can be grown in a hydroponic system, and if you get the right variety, you can even grow them in hanging baskets. Tomatoes can be started anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks indoors. It is a warm season vegetable, and we are very fortunate that this vegetable slash fruit transplants very well. So we can definitely get a head start on our growing season with our tomatoes by starting them indoors. Timing is everything. However, we do not want to wait until it's too late to start our tomato seeds indoors and get those seedlings growing to transplant later after our last average frost date. Because in a lot of areas with a lot of tomatoes, if it's the large varieties, once the nighttime temperatures become 80 degrees or higher at night, a lot of those tomatoes that are larger, they will continue to flower, but they will not set fruit. The only exception to this will be your grape tomatoes and your cherry tomatoes. We will need to consider how much room that we have to grow our tomatoes. Some tomato varieties, like your indeterminate types, they have a sprawling growth habit. They grow vines, they will need to be supported. However, the advantage to all of that is they will give you a longer growing season. If you are limited on space, you might want to consider the determinate type. They grow more compact, more like a bush. They give you a single crop of tomatoes. However, most tomatoes will benefit from some kind of caging, trellising of some sort, just to keep the fruit up off the ground. As far as the sunlight, tomatoes will need minimum 6 hours of direct sunlight a day. If you're planting them in containers that's somewhat lightweight, you can move the containers around, obviously, to wherever is the best sunlight in your yard. As with all vegetables, the pH of the soil is important. Tomatoes like it a little bit acidic, so having your soil tested and making sure the pH is somewhere around 6.2 to 6.5 will be a good range to grow your tomatoes. If your soil happens to be too acidic, amend your soil with agriculture lime. If your soil is too alkaline, then it will have to be amended with some type of sulfur. Once your tomato seedlings are ready to be transplanted, this is one crop that you can plant deeper than what you have originally sown them in, whatever container that may be. It's a good idea to kind of lay the plant on its side and plant as much as you can, because it will grow roots along the stem, making the root system so much stronger and will give an overall benefit to the health of the plant. If you're having a lot of problems with disease and pests, you might want to go with the hybrid variety. A couple suggestions would be your Celebrity or your Better Boy. However, if you really want to stick with an heirloom type of tomato where you can re-sow those seeds next year, sticking with a good heirloom tomato like a Cherokee Purple or a Mortgage Lifter, both of those are good choices. Now, if you're really wanting to grow some tomatoes when it gets really hot, try to choose a really good heat tolerant tomato. One good variety would be your Heat Wave 2. And also remember that most cherry tomatoes will continue to grow when it gets really hot, even your Sweet 100s. One of the best ways to prevent small problems in becoming major issues with your tomato plants is to check your tomato plants on a regular basis, looking out for insects, infestation, and also any type of disease that might be attacking your tomato plants. Now, like all plants, your tomato plants are going to need nutrients in order to grow and thrive. Choosing a really good balanced NPK would be great as a granular fertilizer, maybe like a 688. It needs to be a little bit higher in your phosphorus and also in your potassium. But when you transplant them out at the beginning, feeding them with a liquid soluble fertilizer would be the way to go, because it will have access to those nutrients faster over the granular, because that takes time to break down depending if you're going to use your synthetic or your organic fertilizers. We can prevent quite a few problems with our tomato plants just by making sure they are getting water on a regular, consistent basis. And maybe once a week, depending on how hot it is, giving it a really good soaking. But overall, it needs to have at least 1 to 2 inches of water on a weekly basis. Mulching your tomato plants around the soil line is very important in order to retain moisture. And if you're planting in ground, it will help suppress the weed growth. Do you want to grow tomatoes in the ground, in a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket? Do you want to grow them in a container? And also, do you want to grow large, medium, or small tomatoes? Do you want to plant your determinate or indeterminate tomatoes? Determinate tomatoes usually produce this fruit all at one time. They are lower maintenance. They will not require trellis, but they will benefit from staking because they can get up to be 4 or 5 feet tall. Some popular varieties will be your Romas and your cherry types. Indeterminate varieties will have their fruit grow over several months. It is more your viney type, so it will have to be trellis. Some popular varieties will be your Sun Gold and also your beefsteaks. A fun and good way to grow tomatoes is in a 5-gallon bucket. Just make sure that you drill 6 or 8 holes in the 5-gallon bucket, put some good potting mix in that bucket, plant your transplants, and then just feed it and water it regularly, and then you'll get a bucket load of tomatoes. And make sure it has anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. And by some chance you end up with so many tomatoes you don't know what to do with it, just remember you can always share them with others. You can can them, freeze them, make salsa. You can make also tomato sauce. You can do so many things with them. Please take a moment to subscribe if you have not done so already. Giving a thumbs up, leaving a comment, and sharing the video with others will help Kitchen Garden Farmhouse to grow. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.